In this video, we'll be going over the process of setting up the probe sensor for myCNC. And the probe sensor is useful for things such as the centering widget right here on the main screen, which allows you to do things such as find the surface of the part that you're working on, find the edge of that part, or perhaps find the center of a hole within that part. And this video will be useful for people who are simply trying to set up the probe sensor for the first time, or perhaps users who are trying to set it up on an older software version which might lack certain trigger procedures by default. And in order to set it up, first we have to go into our menu, go into the settings, configuration, probing wizard, and then into probing config. And here you have a possibility of entering some values for the edge sensing correction and for your diameter correction. I will be leaving these blank. However, if you'd like to enter some correction values, either for the offsets for the ball diameter or perhaps the center correction, you can do it here. Next, you have the sensor number and type. So for myself, I will be using the input number 28. As you can see here, I am currently toggling it on and off to simulate the sensor touching the part. So I will be entering 28 in here, and I will be selecting this to be normally opened. Please note that by default this should always be chosen to be normally open rather than normally closed. Next, we want to enable the probe sensor protection, and this will bring up a confirmation window which will let you know that certain PLC procedures are going to be generated, such as trig04, M108, and M109. And you will also have to restart the software to apply these changes. Confirm, and next go into your PLC and check that a procedure called trig04 is available to you. So this code is provided on our documentation wiki in the probe setup manual, and if you do not have it, you can simply copy it in and paste it and save this. Next, after you've made sure that the trig04 procedure has been created, you can go into your probing wizard once again, and this time go into probing macro wizard and click these two buttons at the bottom here, generate all probing macros and generate PLC probing procedure M288. Now that we've done that, this will generate the necessary pop-up windows among all the other things and all the other macros. We have a separate manual for our pop-up windows. However, these will be our pop-up messages 21 and 22 for probe sensor collision. And these will essentially be brought up onto the screen once the sensor touches the part, or perhaps in case where it didn't touch the part, perhaps where it didn't reach it. So now that we've generated the M288 PLC, we can go into our configuration, PLC hardware PLC, and we'd like to actually save all of this data that we've just generated by pressing the Save All, Build All, and Send buttons. You will have a reflashing process pop up, and after a little while the PLC disk will be reflashed. Next, we will simply double check that the trig04 procedure is still intact. This is not necessary for most of the new software versions. However, if you're running a very old software version that you have not updated in a while, sometimes it does tend to override certain procedures. So it's always a good idea to make sure that your Trigo4 procedure is intact. However, as I've mentioned, this is not necessary on your newer software versions. And last but not least, we'd like to make sure that a trigger has been created for our probe sensor. And we can do that by going into Inputs, Outputs, Sensors right here, and going into Triggers, Timers. Here we can see that a trigger number 4 has been created and enabled. It has an input number of 28, just as I specified earlier. It has a trigger for the rising edge, so when there's a change from 0 to 1. And we have the Trigo4 slot assigned to it. And this is created automatically. We're simply confirming that it's there. Next, you will be reloading your software. However, since I've already done this before, I don't have to reload the software to have it enabled. I'll be checking that the sensor is working, and in general it's always a good idea to do this not on a real part, but rather perhaps by using your hands or some sort of a sacrificial part that will break easily if things were to go wrong, just to confirm that your probe sensor is up and running and everything is working correctly. So here I'll simply be using my hand to touch the sensor to let it know that the part has been reached. I will select the surface Z seeking button, enter the values that you'd like for your fast speed, probe speed, slow speed, etc. It's for my purposes, it's not very important what exact values I enter here, and then I will simply run the procedure for finding the surface. Confirm that. The machine will begin lowering. I'll touch the sensor. It'll go up and go down again to reconfirm, and I'll touch it again. It will then rise up and will bring up a message which says that we've had a probe sensor collision. Alright, so this should cover the basics of probe sensors and probe sensor setup. For any additional information, please visit our documentation and make sure to check out the probe setup manual, which is located in our Quick Start section. Thank you for watching.